for the Arklatex.
You're listening to Conservative Talk Radio for the Arklatex, Freedom 107. And now, more of the Voice of Freedom with Jeff Aiken on Freedom 107.
It is 7:35, 25 minutes away from 8 o'clock on this Thursday morning. 50 degrees in the Arklatex with fog. Coming up tonight, Bowie County Patriots meeting, Smoky Joe's in Nash, Texas, beginning at 6 p.m. You'll be able to hear what your Texas State Legislature did to you instead of doing for you in the last legislative session. Joining me via phone this morning is JoAnn Fleming. She's the chair of the Citizen Advisory Committee to the Texas Legislature's Tea Party Caucus and executive director of Grassroots America, We the People. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Jeff.
Well, let's talk about this. You call this the Texas Budget Boondoggle, and there's a reason why. Just kind of give us some highlights of what you'll be talking about tonight.
Well, Jeff, we're going to talk about what every taxpayer, every citizen in Texas needs to know about their state government as it relates to the budget. And we're not going to have a lot of numbers in it that you can't grasp or you can't keep in your head. We're going to set up and paint the picture of how the legislature is balancing the budget. And they're balancing the budget with accounting gimmicks and a Medicaid credit card, tax speed-ups on some businesses, and we're just going to talk about the ways that they balance the budget and what they could actually do to be more transparent and to be the conservatives that we thought we were electing to office.
You know, I was speaking to a group recently, and I said this, that basically they have pre-spent the rainy day fund for the next biennium. Talk a little about how that happens, because technically, under law, it can't happen, but they were able to manage somehow that we're going into this next session with it not being there for us.
Well, for example, they just, on purpose, underfunded the caseload growth for Medicaid. And Medicaid is one of those explosive costs to our state. But for this current budget, what they did is they have 24 months of spending on Medicaid with 18 months of revenue. Pretty creative accounting, right?
That is indeed.
So, and they know it. It's begun since the session's been over. You've got a few people that, believe in telling the truth, and they've admitted to it. But on the other hand, when Comptroller Combs came out mid-December with her new revenue projections, you would think that some of these incumbents, that it's party time. I mean, it's time to pop the champagne corks and throw the confetti, because some of them are running around telling people that the state will have a $1.8 billion surplus in 2013. And so we're going to talk a little bit tonight about how it's not quite time to pull out the party hats, because here's the shortfall. $4.8 billion in a Medicaid underfunding. Then you have $2.3 billion in deferrals to the Foundation School Program to fund enrollment increases in the public schools. You add those two numbers together, you get $7.1 billion planned budget deficit.
Wow.
That's where they plan to get that, from the Rainy Day Fund. And the Rainy Day Fund projections are that there will be $7.3 billion in the Rainy Day Fund. So the People's Savings Account will once again be raided, because we have elected officials, and particularly people in leadership, who just don't want to do the hard work of restructuring state government to get it back inside a constitutional science box.
Everything that I hear about the Texas legislature, it goes back to one thing. It goes back to leadership. It seems like the leadership, Joe Straus in particular, that's where everything goes to, because the people that we sent to Austin, this new wave of folks we sent to Austin in 2010 to be there for the 2011 session, they seem to have bowed down and kissed the ring of Mr. Straus.
Well, Mr. Straus is one of the most reluctant Republicans to ever talk about cuts. In fact, I've been going back and researching some of the comments he made when there were some of the initial budget cuts going on to try to soften the landing the last time they raided the Rainy Day Fund, which was just last year. And Strauss recently said, well, we don't want to talk about cuts anymore. You can't cut your way to prosperity. I have to tell you, that's a remark that's inappropriate for someone who calls himself a Republican in the state of Texas. Joe Strauss sounds as if he's more suited to the Washington, D.C. Beltway crowd. I mean, really, you can't cut your way to prosperity. I tell you what, Jeff, the problem that we have with most incumbents and most elected officials anywhere and bureaucrats, they are fixated on the revenue end instead of the spending end. Mm-hmm. We don't have a revenue problem in the state of Texas. We have a spending problem. Part of my presentation lays that out in a very succinct, bottom-line style that contrasts some of the things we're doing in Texas with what is happening in Washington, D.C., with the spending, with the delaying of hard decisions, with crony capitalism, handing out tax dollars to special interest groups, for example, like Formula One racetrack, and, just making some of the same mistakes they make in Washington. So the point of all this is state government has to get used to getting less federal money. And about 40 to 42% of state government is based on maximizing federal pull-down. So we have a very unhealthy cycle here. But we have to get used to getting less federal money because one of two things is going to happen. We're either going to have a huge change in Washington where we get federal government back inside its Constitution size box and doesn't do things the government shouldn't be doing, and then the rest of it they do extremely well and at the very best price, or we're going to have the status quo and a complete financial disaster. We cannot keep going the way we're going, and we can't keep going the way we're going in state government. See, the problem is that you have people who have higher political aspirations who have painted this rosy fairy tale picture of what's going on in the state of Texas. Well, I get to tell people the truth, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. It's what's really going on with your state legislature as it applies to spending and to illegal immigration.
Well said. Look forward to it. You always give a great presentation. You'll do it tonight, Smoky Joe's in Nash, Texas, beginning at 6 p.m. We are still looking forward to it. JoAnn Fleming, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Jeff.
I appreciate it. It is 7:42, 18 minutes away from 8 o'clock. I tell you, you don't want to miss that. You don't want to miss this presentation tonight because it will pull the cover off. You will see what's actually happening. Oftentimes we refer to government as sausage making. You may enjoy the end result, but you don't want to know how it's made. Well, tonight you will see how it's made. And it's not pretty, but it is our responsibility to know what's happening. Coming up next, Hannity Update. This is the Voice of Freedom on Freedom 107.